In his farewell speech in July 2015, former U.S. President Barack Obama, while speaking to a large audience at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, hailed Africa's extraordinary progress, noting that such growth can only be sustained through continued development and democracy for all.
When I first came to sub-Saharan Africa as a president, I said that Africa doesn't need strong men, it needs strong institutions.
Constitutional engineering to remove or circumvent presidential term limits and undermining institutions by some leaders is alarming. For example, in Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, Uganda, Rwanda, and Burundi, incumbent presidents have exploited ambiguities in the law to extend their terms as heads of state while simultaneously undermining their nation's constitution. Equatorial Guinea's President Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo has held power for 39 years. He's still going strong, winning a fifth 7-year term in 2016. Earlier this month, Cameroon's President Paul Biya was sworn in after winning 71% of the vote in the October election, extending his 36-year rule. In 2008, the Cameroonian parliament voted to change the constitution to remove term limits, so President Paul Biya would be eligible to extend his time in office. In December 2017, Uganda's parliament voted to lift the age limit for the presidency, setting a stage for the nation's longtime leader Yoweri Museveni to rule indefinitely. President Museveni successfully pushed to change the constitution in 2005 to abolish term limits. Rwandan President Paul Kagame won his last election in 2017 with nearly 100% of the vote, securing a third term in office. Kagame's re-election came after a constitutional amendment which ended a 2-term limit, allowing him to possibly remain in power until 2034. In Burundi, voters overwhelmingly approved a new constitution, extending the presidential term from 5 to 7 years, potentially allowing President Pierre Nkurunziza to seek 2 more terms beginning in 2020. Political analysts argue that perhaps former U.S. President Barack Obama was right when he said that democracy in Africa is threatened when the presidents do not stand aside at the end of their constitutional term limits.
I am in my second term, but under our Constitution, I cannot run again. And no one person is above the law, not even the president.
On a positive note, not all of Africa is dealing with the strongman syndrome. For example, new Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is proposing and pushing through reforms. In a historic move, the Prime Minister swore in the country's first female president, Supreme Court judge, and named 10 female ministers to his cabinet, which is now a split equally between men and women. In West Africa, opposition leader Julius Maada Bio was sworn in as president of Sierra Leone in April, replacing incumbent Ernest Bai Koroma, who abided by the country's constitution and stepped down as head of state. In January 2018, George Weah, a former international football star, was sworn in as president of Liberia, following incumbent President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who stepped down at the end of her second constitutionally allowable term. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.